Tonight, there's new controversy surrounding an out-of-state group that's trying to help oust 3 Tennessee Supreme Court justices.
Leaked documents raise questions about how the Republican State Leadership Committee did business in neighboring Alabama.
And the website Politico broke the story today under the headline, "Powerhouse GOP Group Snared in Money Scheme." It says that the RSLC was implicated in a, quote, risky campaign finance scheme that an internal report warned could trigger possible criminal penalties. Politico says that in 2010, the group was used as a pass-through for controversial Indian tribe donations, essentially laundering toxic money from the gaming industry by routing it out of state and then back into Alabama. Current leaders note that the people involved in that controversy no longer work there, and no one was ever charged.
Still, Rory, some of Tennessee's biggest corporations have been encouraged to give big bucks to that same out-of-state group to help shake up Tennessee's high court. News Channel 5's chief investigative reporter Phil Williams has been following the money, and he discovered one of those donors is a Middle Tennessee nursing home chain that has a lot at stake.
At NHC, we are committed to...
This video shows how nursing home operator NHC likes to portray itself.
NHC offers the compassionate, person-centered care you need.
But despite the rosy picture, sometimes things go terribly wrong. With allegations of abuse or neglect, the courts have not always been a friendly place for the nursing home giant. That's why the Murfreesboro-based corporation has tried to force the elderly to sign contracts, agreeing that if something does happen, instead of suing, they'll use a process called binding arbitration.
What's happening is they're putting in these arbitration clauses to basically keep people from going to court to get redress of their grievances.
But Tennessee courts have not always seen it NHC's way, ruling that forcing the sick and elderly to sign away their legal rights can be unconscionable.
Does that lend credence to the notion that big business is trying to buy the Supreme Court?
No, I don't want them to buy it, but I want them to be involved.
In fact, Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey admitted back in April that an NHC official joined discussions about how to oust 3 Democratic appointees to the Tennessee Supreme Court. And Ramsey's office listed one of those binding arbitration cases as proof for the need for new judges.
Liberal Democrats control our court.
Then when conservatives launched their campaign, a direct mail piece of that effort was partly financed by the Republican State Leadership Committee. So far, the RSLC has reported spending almost $200,000. NHC gave the group $25,000.
I think it's opening the door to the possibility of people buying courts, yes.
Ed Yarbrough is a former U.S. attorney appointed by a Republican president who worries about the implications of big corporations trying to overthrow a state's high court.
Which I'm pro-business, I think most people are. But if the pro-business attitude begins to control what the Constitution says, then that's the tail wagging the dog.
As for the notion that nursing home residents could have their rights affected by a political campaign.
So who in Tennessee wants to throw that out and allow their aunt or grandmother to be forced into arbitration when she might get injured as a result of negligence in a nursing home? People have not thought this through.
But critics of the justices point out that among their contributors are some of the state's trial lawyers who make a living by suing doctors and big corporations.
But I'm just sitting there wondering about the poor guy who may have been injured and gotten his leg cut off, and he lost his case. Does he have $25,000 to try to unseat the court? I don't think so.
Hendersonville lawyer Doolin Kelly started a political action committee that's bought TV time to respond to the attacks on the justices. So far, it's raised and spent $46,000, although most of that money came from a group that includes both plaintiff and defense lawyers.
People will say, well, look at Mr. Kelly. He's a trial lawyer.
I am.
And he's defending the justices.
I am. Because I want the court to always be a place when I go into it with my client, regardless of who it is, that each of us has the same right to justice.
The public is being asked to throw out 3 very good judges, in my mind, not knowing what they might get in place of that.
We reached out to NHC to try to give them a chance to give us their side, but they never called back. As for Lieutenant Governor Ramsey's presentation, it also includes a case where the Supreme Court ruled against Tractor Supply. It turns out the wife of Tractor Supply's former CEO also gave $25,000 to this same group.
So you've got both sides raising money. What's
That's right.
the difference between what the justices are doing?
Well, there is one big difference. The justices have set up traditional campaign accounts so anyone can see who's giving to them. The opposition is much harder to trace. That money is being filtered either through this group or through the Lieutenant Governor's Political Action Committee. Plus, a group started by the billionaire Koch brothers is also spending money to oust the justices, and that's money they'll never be required to disclose.
All right. Thanks, Phil.